Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little dose of reality.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Fins Talk. I'm your host, Steve Malloy, and we got an all-star cast tonight on the Fins Talk panel show. We got Bobby Melendez, the founder of the Fins Talk Sports Network. We got Greg Meyne, analyst for the Fins Talk Sports Network. And we got down at the bottom my brother from another mother from the Fins Faithful Podcast, George. How y'all doing tonight?
I am doing
Bobby?
great. Yeah, thank you for having me, Steve. I'm glad to be on here with you and Greg Meyne and George of the Fins Faithful Podcast, who I got to give a lot of credit to. Man, he is killing it. The Fins Faithful Podcast, guys, if you haven't yet, go check out that channel, like and subscribe. I say it's the fastest growing Dolphins YouTube channel out there, and they got killer content coming. I mean, he had Ben Albright on yesterday, and I mean, if you weren't paying attention, if you didn't watch that, if you did, you knew what may go down, and it did. But I'll let him get to that.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Steve. Thanks for having me on. Always, Bobby, Steve. We've done a bunch of shows together, and Greg, first time meeting. How you doing? This is going to be some fun conversation tonight, huh?
Absolutely, 100%, man. We got some breaking news, and I wanted to get Greg's take on this as well. Greg, tell us what you got going on in Fins Talk Sports Network.
We're still trying to put together the overtime show with Brett and Evan. Our schedules just are not lining up right now, so we're gonna figure out how to get this thing going and get this consistent. But yeah, we're hoping to continue every Thursday. But the last couple of weeks just have not worked out for us. But I was a pleasure being on your show last week and had fun with you and Curtis. So looking forward to this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to when you guys get together, Evan and Brett and you guys. I actually was texting with Evan today, and he said he was sorry he couldn't make the show, but he's going to be on next week for sure. So we'll have Evan on next week. Bobby, please tell everybody what you got going on at Fins Talk Sports Network.
Yeah, man. You know how it is. Just staying busy. We got a whole plethora of shows, as a lot of our partners in crime in the content producing side of it. They'll say, "Oh my God, they do everything we do." From No Holds Barred Wrestling on Saturday nights with Josh Kimmel at 8 p.m. A lot of Fins Talk. Obviously, Fins Talk today. On Saturdays at noon, me and Fish Tank Hank are back, and we've been having some great shows. Real Talk, Fins Talk with you, Steve, Tuesdays. We do have Doll's Diaries every other Monday. And she's right now covering Miami Heat content for us. We do that on East 10th Street Boys as well on Wednesday nights, covering the Heat, the Dolphins, the Panthers, who are killing it right now. Marlins baseball is about to start up. We have a baseball show, the On Deck Baseball Podcast with Russ Morgan. He has some great stuff. Former player in college and a scout. He knows his stuff. The only downside to him, and I don't care if he's watching, I do love the guy, good dude, but You know, the only downside, he's a Jets and a Boston Celtics fan, you know, and then
Oh,
yeah,
man.
so that just tells you the type of person I am to welcome someone like that to the channel. But, you know, he's a good dude. And of course, and I am, you know, if I'm missing something, forgive me. Obviously, overtime, Fins Talk Overtime with Greg Meyne and Brett Lagasse and Evan Finstanza. Those guys do have a great show, and it's a different perspective for some Dolphin fans. It may, you know, a lot of Dolphin fans, you know, who maybe seem like in the minority, in the silent way of it, who have those frustrations. It's a perfect show for you. You know, it's not for the homer. It's more for those fans that have to scream. You know, it's perfect, and it might rub some people the wrong way, but it's an awesome show. And Greg is great. He's been a great addition to the team. I'm excited for having him. You know, he's a breath of fresh air. You know, when it comes to the way he described things and talk things and things that you don't even think about. You go, oh damn, okay. You know, and of course Sundays we have the On the Clock Miami Dolphins draft show, which is a lot of fun. It is I forgot what that word is, but I enjoy doing it. Love watching film. And we had George on with us. Josh Wingate couldn't join us, but it was me and Coach Vogel. And we did the War Room, which is just a different type of mock draft situation where we all have a say. You know, it's not like, okay, George, you get a chance. Now you run the mock draft. Bobby, you do it. Greg, you do it. Steve. No, we're all running this. We're in the War Room. We're the scouting and the GM, and you know, and it's just an interesting thing. And we go player by player and do spotlights. So a lot of great stuff going on the network. I'm trying to work on a couple new shows that I would love to do to dive into other sports. But right now, that's what we got going on here on FTSN.
Wow. Yeah, we got a lot going on. I remember 3 years ago when when you first started the Fins Talk Sports Network, there was like only maybe 2 or 3 shows at the most. And now I've lost track. I really have. I mean, I'll go into Fins Talk Network, you know, Fins Talk Sports Network.
Yeah.
And I'll see what's scheduled for the week. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know they were on. I didn't even know that was a new show.
And see, you just made me you just reminded me right now. And, you know, talk about Josh Kimmel, who does No Holds Barred Wrestling with me, which is fun on Saturday nights. He also has Real Talk Wrestling, and which is cool that he does mainly AEW wrestling for wrestling fans out there. And then also though, we have Fantasy Now Plus, which is used to be Once Upon a Sunday, which they covered fantasy football, but now Fantasy Now Plus, they've rebranded. They got a website. They cover not just fantasy football, but basketball, baseball. They're growing. They got their own team. So I'm very proud and excited for them. They just came back on. They'll be on Fridays as well, I believe in the afternoon. So yeah, man, you said, you know, how we started to where we are now and where we will continue to be. I'm excited and thankful for the whole group.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. And before we get started, because we got some breaking news, this is the second day. Yesterday was the tampering period, and today, I'm right. Today's the 11th. Yeah, and tomorrow officially
will be the official start.
Will be the official start. So, but we've got a lot of stuff going on. For a while there, I was kind of, you know, going, oh, what is he going to do? You know, what's Chris Gear going to do? But then all of a sudden, pop. We had all these moves and stuff like that. So I want to welcome everybody that's in the chat tonight. I see Eric, you're in there, brother. Appreciate you. Duke, Lo-Fi, all you guys that are joining tonight. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that bell down there, subscribe. So you'll get all this good Fins Talk Sports Network you know, talk and stuff, and you'll get those notifications when they pop up and they start their shows and things like that. Also, I want to make mention, we do have super chats. So if you're inclined that you want to donate to the show or whatever, there's that super chat down there. We'd appreciate that if you want to donate. That's no problem. We will accept them. We will accept the donations for sure. So we're not shy about that. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know. I just wanted to let you know about all that stuff. Also, before we get started too, I got to say this. We may not agree everything Miami Dolphins, but there's one thing we can agree on is we are all Dolphins. And with that, we're going to get started. So let's start with the breaking news, Bobby. We got some breaking news just in the last hour.
Yeah, so just obviously we got a lot of stuff going on with Miami, but the breaking news, obviously, right before the show, is the Dolphins got a receiver. They got a 6'2", what's that, 220-pound receiver from Tennessee. Not a lot of yards, but 9 touchdowns last year, coming off a career year. They signed him to a 2-year deal worth $3.2 million. That's from Tom Pelissero. So that's big for Miami. Again, wide receiver 3, you pair him with, of course, Tyreek and Waddle and Malik Washington. So I actually like this move. It's, again, I just want to, we'll go over the whole free agency as it's starting out, and everybody has an opinion and everyone has a right to their opinion. I will say we may not always agree on who they signed or the people, but I will say that I do like that they are kind of tackling their needs. So that way, when they get to that draft, it's not about trying to fill a need. It's just about maybe going BPA. And that's something I've been kind of preaching throughout this offseason process. So that's one thing I am happy with. So I am happy that they did go and get this guy. Again, red zone target. You think about that QB situation in Tennessee, was not great. It was ugly. It was an ugly situation in Tennessee. And for this kid to have 9 touchdowns, speaks volumes, and that red zone target type of player. I got to watch a little more of him. Obviously I'm from Tennessee, but I didn't really pay attention to them this year at all, but I'll watch more of him and get a better judgment on him. But I do like what I've seen so far when I did a quick research before the show.
Yeah, and I agree, Eric. Will Mike McDaniel utilize him? That's a good point. So the first question I have is, George, let's start with you first. How do you feel about this pickup, this big body wide receiver that we so desperately needed?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Bobby said, I second that. I mean, the size at the position is what we need. It takes a need. He's most likely your third receiver. The 9 touchdowns stand out to me. He didn't, he's a guy that looks like he was an ascending player. I didn't watch a ton of him, if I'm being honest, for the Titans. But what I do know of him, a big, physical, tall receiver, red zone threat, good. It checks a need off. Solid pickup. Nothing, nothing you're going to, go up in arms and excited about, but just a really solid value signing. I like it.
Yeah. And Greg.
He's a red zone target. I don't think he's going to see the
Good
field
point.
a whole lot outside of the red zone, unless he can block. If he's a blocking physical player on the outside, that'll help our running game. But I don't see him getting a lot of 20 to 20 pass attempts or catches in that area. He's going to be the bigger red zone target for this team. Miami's offense is still going to be based on timing and getting open and finding holes. I don't know if he fits that mold. That's the Waddle, that's the Hills, that's the Washingtons. That's why they're on the fields. But we do need a red zone target. Other than Jonnu Smith, this could be that guy. So I for the price, yeah, this was a no-brainer in a way.
And I will say too, again, 2 years, $6.5 million. He's 6'2", 211, only 27 years old. He's undrafted. So kudos to him, because obviously, and I don't have it in front of me now, but I do have his last year stats, which is 32 receptions. So it goes right to Greg's point with how many targets he may be getting, but 32 receptions, 497 yards, 9 touchdowns. I will say though, when I look back at some of his numbers, he scored multiple touchdowns in the few years that he's been playing, but last year was his best year. So, again, this is nothing to go like George was saying to, oh my goodness, we got our big guy. We got him. But this is a good, a lot of these moves for me is very, low risk, high reward. None, I can't see these moves really biting you in the ass. These are more like, okay, hey, we didn't break bank on these guys, but hey, you know what? If they turn out, they could outplay what they're making. So, but that falls right in that category. Low risk, very high reward.
Yeah, I agree. And I like that big body receiver. And I'm curious to know those 9 touchdowns, were they in the red zone or where did he actually catch them? Because I know he's not a fast guy. I mean, he's fat. He's a wide receiver, so I mean he's not slow. He's 4.4 speed, but he's not a Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. 4.29, 4.3 or anything like that. But anyway, what do we got next, Bobby, on the agenda?
We
the
now
compensated picks.
know what the additional picks we're going to have in the draft now. So Miami, other than what they already had, they got a 3rd rounder, they got a 4th rounder, and now they got 2 7th rounders. So now we have some clarity on that, and now George, you, myself, Greg, and everyone else who likes to dip their toe in the draft talk can now have these conversations and actually do a mock draft. And hopefully we'll see where those numbers actually fall. I don't have that in front of me, but Miami did get some and very important concept picks, 3rd and 4th round, right in the dead center. And obviously 7th rounders or 7th rounders. I get it, but still, I love those mid to late round picks. That's where you get your bread and butter. That's when you hit your gems, and hopefully we could find some gems. But we know who's still running, who's cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We also picked up a safety in the last hour too, and that was
Ashton Davis.
Ashton Davis. Yeah, what do you know about Ashton Davis, Bobby?
Man, no, just again, I don't know what type of deal he got. I think it's a 1 year. George, if you saw it, please butt in. But
I saw something like the bait was 2.5 or something like that. I don't know how many years.
The one thing I'll say about all these free agents that Miami has signed, they're not older guys. I know Finn Stanza called me and he's like, you know how he is. He's just as high energy as he is on the phone as he is during a show. And he's like, I'll tell you what, I don't care who they signed. They just better be in their 20s. I don't want to see no 30-year-old player. And, Ashton Davis, 28 years old, a former 3rd round pick, probably that, base deal, 1 year something. But last season, not a bad career so far. Again, low end, high reward type of player. 35 total tackles, 2 INTs, 2 pass deflections, 2 stuffs. He had 8 interceptions in his career so far in a young career. So Miami picks up 2 safeties after losing, of course, Javon Holland. Does this take them out of the safety market in the draft? I wouldn't be quick to say that. I think this just gives them flexibility to not have to do it now. Now you don't, George, when we're doing the war room, however many times people will tell you when we're trying to do these drafts or talk about it, we have to take up safety. We don't have it now. You really don't. You could wait, but of course, if you got that, Amin Rory sitting there at 13, do you ignore that? No, you don't ignore that because you have this, but now that gives you flexibility to go, no, I could go ahead and get this next guy. So, but Ashton Davis was the other signing we did today towards the start of this show, which I don't think was a bad signing at all. Again, low risk, high reward.
Yeah, I'm familiar with in that 20 draft. I was familiar with him a lot, and I know the Dolphins liked him coming out of Cal, and I think he was picked in the early 3rd, in the late 60s or something like that. I thought he was going to be a guy that was in play for that when we had that Raekwon Davis pick at 56. Really athletic safety, right? Hasn't special teams, great special teams player. He's been a part-time starter for the Jets, but he can turn the ball. It's one thing this team doesn't have is guys who can turn the ball over. That's why I really wanted Andre Cisco, but he went for a little bit more money to the Jets. So we got we probably switched safeties with them. But yeah, I think this is one where I agree with Bobby. It doesn't quite take you out of the safety position, but the need becomes less. I mean, the Detroit safety, who I'm a fan of, but I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I'll let somebody else do that.
I'll give it a shot a little later on here.
All right, those 2 guys, and you have Patrick Morris, and you re-sign Elijah Campbell, right? So there's some depth there. Again, is there 2 guys you feel comfortable today saying, I feel comfortable with these 2 guys as my starting safety? Still not sure. But again, good value. And I said on my show, Greer, look at the 20 and 21 draft. His MO is he gets guys starting their second contract, and he's done it 3 or 4 times in this free agency alone. This is a kind of a bargain bin shopping year, kind of like last year. With the tight end Jonnu Smith, Jordan Brooks, even Aaron Brewer got a similar contract to James Daniels. Believe it or not, it's pretty close. So
pretty close.
I mean, I know we're not talking about the totality of free agency. Obviously, the James Daniels move is the best. I just don't know how much this moves the needle for the team in the big picture. Any of this.
Mm-hmm.
That's my concern. But we'll talk about the rest of it in the big picture. But that's just my thought before I forget and I don't mention that.
Yeah, Greg, what's your thoughts?
So there's nobody on this list that you can feel comfortable with starting. I'll say it that way.
Agree.
All right. Even though Daniels, I think, is a pretty good player, you have no idea what that Achilles is going to be, and you have no idea, when he's going to be 100% or capable of playing again. All right. Mm-hmm. So there's nobody on this list that's a starter. All right. Mm-hmm. I do like the two safeties. All right. With the caveat, if they're healthy, and and I do like Davis as a special teamer. Okay. But again, like George said, none of these move the needle, right? None of these are a clear upgrade over what you currently had. You have more depth now, but again, that's not going to move the needle. This to me is setting up to where you're going to have to really hit a home run in this draft to move the needle. And I would not say safety's off the board at all. I would not say that corner is off the board. You still could potentially get another pass rusher in there. There's all kinds of places you can go in this draft, but you need to hit home runs almost on 3 draft picks to really move the needle. If this is the type of free agency we're going to keep doing the rest of the signing period. Right.
Yeah, going back to what we were talking about here, Ashton Davis. He is very good in the box. He's very good in the run defense. He's very good with that. He's younger than Poyer. Of course, I think Javon Holland was a little younger, right? But he's younger than Poyer, and he's faster. He runs a 4.29, 4.3 40. So he can move. He's good on special teams. He's going to be fast going down on special teams, and he's going to be good, coming up into the box and playing to the run and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure
that's how I
feel.
Couple
guys on this show that are younger than Poyer, but that's all right.
Yeah. Well, one of them is not me, that's for sure. All right, so let's go. Let's talk about the Ifitu Mililanwu.
I would say I've been thinking in my head how to pronounce it. Ifiatu Melifonwu. That's what I'm going to go with.
There you go.
How about Detroit safety?
The Detroit safety. Yeah, the safety from Detroit. Let's go with him.
Let's go with that.
I actually like him a lot.
Go ahead, George.
He's one guy, Greg. You said out of the two safeties, I feel more comfortable. Healthy. Now this guy can't stay healthy.
That's right.
I feel confident in him starting. He had a really good 23. But then he had multiple hand injuries, and last year he got hurt early, then came back at the end of the year. But he's a downhill safety in the box, and he's okay in pass coverage. Like he'd probably be your strong safety. Davis would be your free, if I had to guess. I actually like him, but the problem is we're piling on top too many of these kind of what if injury guys. And Bobby, you said at the top of the show, like you're not going to lose anything. But the problem is if we start relying on too many of these guys, what happens is we're going to have the same thing happen that we happened the year before. This guy's hurt again. They're going to blame Greer. So remember all these fans who like this signing now, including myself, we like it now. But when 3 or 4 are hurt and it's Patrick McMorris or somebody else, that's the danger here is relying on these types of players to fill voids.
So I will say, in regards to Melifonwu, 1 year, $4 million. I agree. I like the upside, George, and when healthy, which is the key word here. And we know that's Greer's MO, right? That's the joke. But yeah, he missed time. He missed a lot of time last season. So only played 7 games in 2022. 23 was his best year. 33 total tackles, 3 sacks, 2 INTs, 8 pass deflections, 2.5 stuffs, 1 forced fumble. I mean, if you could do that next season with Miami, that's great. That would be great for Miami. Look, here's the reality. Okay. This is why I am not as, oh my God, the end of the world. Dolphins suck. This offseason sucks. If you were coming into this offseason with high expectations, with Miami's cap situation and what Miami put themselves in, you were only fooling yourself. I'm not going to waste tears or my frustrations on this team because Miami put themselves in this mess. I heard it before the show while I was getting ready. Greg and Steve talking, and the word bargain shopping, and I think of the store Bargain Hunt. That's exactly what this is. Miami, I was not surprised. Of course, we all were at noon waiting to, as soon as noon came, we start refreshing. Of course, then Twitter falls down and we're all crap. And I go, oh, I have Blue Sky. Yeah. So I go to Blue Sky and I start going, I'm trying to refresh, and nothing was happening. It was all happening everywhere else in the league. And, as a fan of a team, you're like, damn, this sucks. This is boring. But at the same time, you're like, okay, all right, this makes sense. You know why? Because we don't have the money. We're not going to go crazy and, oh, we lost this guy. Oh, man, we couldn't sign this free agent. We didn't get this safety. People were complaining about the Zach Wilson signing, and we'll get to that. But my thing was, we got Zach Wilson at 6.5. Or would you have preferred Daniel Jones at 14 million? You know what I mean? That's where Miami was at. And then that doesn't seem so bad. So, bringing in James Daniels, for instance, we first off, the first 4 games of the season, I think it was 4 games, he was one of the top guards in the NFL, right? Yeah, and then he got injured. He tore his Achilles, which sucks. But that's why Miami got him for so much cheap. He wouldn't be a free agent right now, or he probably would sign someone else. You're kind of hoping that, hey, he could come back and play like he did. And before that, he played very well. So this, getting a James Daniels, I mean, you would wish you would have had that type of player last year. You wish Miami would have signed a James Daniels instead of what they did. I wasn't expecting any big signings from Miami. And quite frankly, none of these moves will move the needle. The only chance you have at moving a needle for this season in Miami, if it's the guys that we did pay the big bucks for, the Tuas, the Tyreeks, and whatever, get their heads out of their asses and start playing real good football, and don't worry about the off the field stuff. I'm not saying that's Tua, but also play and stay healthy and whatever. And for Coach McDaniel, which that's hard to do, is to change the culture now in Miami. Obviously, they're voted the best team by the players, the best owner, the best coach, all that in regards of how the relationships. But obviously that does not equal wins. That's how you're going to move the needle. And that right now, we can't say that's going to happen because history has shown that's not going to happen. So these moves are not about moving the needle for me. These moves are more about, trying to do better than what you did last year with the moves that you did make. Because Zach Wilson, Mike White, Zach Wilson, Skylar Thompson, that's how I judge it. I don't expect any of these moves to move the needle, but I am judging on what they're doing now. And hey, look, they gone out and got 2 offensive linemen, one guy that you could plug in probably as your right guard starter if healthy, and he's expected to be back healthy. 2 safeties that kind of alleviate the need for a dire need at safety, and then you got your QB2. Who's, again, very low risk, high reward type player. I mean, you don't expect anything from Zach Wilson. He's not going to be your starter. He's your backup. He's a very young player. He's only played 4 years, 3 years with the Jets, 1 year with the Broncos. And he's athletic. You would hope that if and when he does come in for the few games, he plays well with the talent around him. But that's on Coach McDaniel. That's who's going to move the needle. That right there.
I will say that I agree with you. Like the situation, if you're complaining about this free agencies, you need to complain about the moves they made 2 or 3 years in a row ago. Yep. That's the issue. I think it's a solid free agency. I think it's a B free agency. I think they added depth. You made a good point. The point is the players that are on this roster are the big money players. They're already on this roster. Those guys have to stay healthy, and those guys, like you said, Bobby, have to take that step, or this is not going to work no matter what. Now, the only complaint I would have is I would have still liked to attack the offensive line. It's not over yet. Like you all of a sudden pop up, you pop on my screen, you signed Tevin Jenkins because the first wave, he didn't think what he was getting, and you get him. Okay, now we're in the ballpark. Because James Daniels, let me tell you something, healthy is an all-pro Pro Bowler in the system. Not even a doubt in my mind. He'll be one of your better guards you've had in the last, I don't know how many years here. That's how good he was playing with Pittsburgh, and that's how well the system fit is here in Miami. But you put that next to a Tevin Jenkins, or I don't care, a Mekhi Beton. I know everybody says he doesn't fit the system. He's athletic enough. They were in outside zone with Saquon Barkley in Philly. Again, these guys haven't signed yet. Now, did that first wave, the market kind of is not where they thought it would be, and now we come back and we kind of pair him up with Daniels, the Chicago lineman Borum, and okay. I like the way somebody like Chicago attacked the offensive line. I think we needed to put more resources and more money on that position still, because I don't know if I'm going to relying so much on the draft, and are they going to take a guard at 13? But again, I agree with you, Bobby. The players that need to move the needle already on this team, I think it's a solid free agency. I still would like a little bit more done on the offensive line.
Yeah. How about you, Greg? How do you feel?
I'm interested. It's going to be interesting to see the makeup of the offensive line. I'll say it that way. In my mind, are they going to get to the point where they're going to play their best 5 players? All right, and is Paul one of their best 5, players? Do you move Armstead to right tackle, move Jackson to guard, put Daniels at left guard, and pair him next to the rookie or the second-year player now that you drafted in the second round, who right now doesn't have a position on the offensive line? All right. I mean,
I think he's a starting left tackle right now, though. Today, if we go open camp, you're saying Armstead. Yeah. You're saying Armstead comes back, is what you're saying.
I'm saying Armstead's probably coming back.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So you basically drafted a second-round tackle a year ago who can't see the field unless somebody gets hurt, or you shuffle people around. All right. What's the plan? I don't see them taking a guard at 13. All right.
No.
They can probably take one in the second round, maybe the third round or something like that. But is that person a guaranteed starter at that point? I don't know. All right. They need to do work on the O-line, but I don't think there's another free agent signing that's going to come along and say this automatically improves where we're at. I'd like to see him play left tackle. If Armstead comes back, move him to right tackle, move Jackson to guard, do something different. Get bigger and more athletic on that offensive line. But we'll see. And even if you do improve the offensive line significantly, I still don't see the needle moving unless your big name players on offense start producing like they're supposed to. And that's the key. All right. It's in a way, offensive line is irrelevant. All right. You need Hill, Waddle, Washington, Jonnu Smith. You need a running back and Tua to basically play it where they're supposed to be playing. And then on defense, you need your guys to stay healthy. All right. If you're going to count on Chubb and Phillips to do something, all right, they got to stay healthy for the entire year. That and Chop. All right. You'll find another defensive tackle that can play next to Sealer. Not concerned about that. You'll find another linebacker. I'm not concerned about that. The secondary still scares me. All right. I'm not sure the safety duo. I'm not sure the safety duo moves the needle a whole lot. And I still think there's some massive holes at 2, 3, and 4 corners.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
And
there's no lie there. You're right on.
So there are some things about this team that basically still have to come together, and that's a lot to ask for in one draft.
That's or one off season, and right, and I think that's where you're going. And I don't disagree with you whatsoever, and especially with your points. I will say, for me, I do think, and we got Josh Wingate, co-host of the On the Clock Miami Dolphins draft show here on FTSN. But that's something that he was preaching throughout this process about Miami finding a veteran guard and to pair, because especially if you're expecting, if Miami, it's up to Miami to believe that or not, or to do that, is to they plug in Patrick Paul, you're going to want a veteran guard to be next to him and between him and Aaron Brewer, and does James Daniel fit that need? I think he fits better at right guard. Ray Tutledge is we've been talking about him a lot on our show. from Georgia. But I will, if Armstead comes back, first off, James Daniels is better than any guard that we've gotten. He's better than any guard we got last year, for sure. Health is a big thing, but when he played the first 4 games of the season, I mean, people were praising that move in Pittsburgh. If he could come back and he's better than Eichenberg. I'll say that. I mean, if we want a measuring stick, he's better than Eichenberg
and Robert Jones.
And Robert Jones. And I think Robert Jones signed with Dallas. So, congratulations, Josh. Hope he works out well for you. Josh Wingate, Dallas Cowboys fan here on the network. But yeah, no, I think you're right on. And especially the defensive back, and George and I've discussed this, and George on his show in length, we've talked about it on our separate shows, is, defensive back is a concern. And even right now, I mean, again, these 2 safeties, which again, low risk, high reward type players for sure. But it eliminates the dire need to go after a safety, but it doesn't eliminate the going after BPA if Malik, oh my goodness, Malachi Starks, or Amenwari, who I'm really, I'm in on that guy. That dude is from South Carolina. But corner is a need. Cam Smith has not worked out. Vic Fangio is not looking so bad right now with what came out about Cam Smith. I mean, you would hope maybe in his 3rd year, all of a sudden something switches. But right now, can you really be comfortable going into next season with Jalen Ramsey and Cam Smith as your 1 and 2, and then you don't even know what 3 and 4 is? A corner at 13. Can't sleep on that. George, I want to ask you, and Steve, forgive me, very quick. I want to give a shout out to everyone tuning in right now. We got almost 160 people watching right now. FTSN Fins, Real Talk Fins Talk, Fins Talk panel here, reacting to free agency with Steve Malloy, of course, myself and George of the Fins Faithful podcast, and Greg Meyne of Overtime. But George, man, hopefully I'm not putting you in the fire, but I know you do a lot of research, but man, what defensive back, maybe at 13? Let's talk 13.
2 guys.
Two guys. Okay, go for it, brother. Talk to me.
The top guy would probably be Will Johnson, the long corner in Michigan. Everybody talked about it be a top 5 pick, and then, he kind of had, people say, a down year. I think when he tests, it's going to be a big deal. I know we don't look at numbers, but that's the difference of him going maybe 7 or 11. His long speed is the only issue that people have about him. I don't. He's a top 5-6 player in this draft for me. If he fell to 13, regardless, it'd be hard to pass him up. There may be only 1 or 2 players I would pass him up that probably be there. And the next guy who I think is more realistic is Jahadi Barron, who I think is a versatile kind of do-it-all corner, plays nickel, plays outside, tough, ran great at the combine. I think he ran 4.39. He's a guy I could see the Dolphins drafting and the fans hating. He's not the biggest guy, he's not the flashiest, but he's a heck of a football player. Those are the only 2 guys at 13 that you would consider. I think Barron will be there. Outside chance Will Johnson's there. Don't think so. But Barron has all the traits and characteristics that this organization would like. And then you mentioned the 2 safeties. I actually think these safety signings point more towards Malachi Starks being the pick if they were going safety than Monwari. Because remember, Melifanu, whatever his name is, he's a big guy.
Pretty good pronunciation, I think.
He's
6'3",
210, similar size.
He's a big man.
Starks is more of that quick, agile cover safety, instinctive, more what they don't have. So I think actually, if you're going to ask me who's a Chris Greer pick, it's Malachi Starks. Like, that is Chris Greer. He's really good at safeties. He can't miss this first round. You won't miss on Malachi Starks. You're not taking the best player available, though, but that's a Chris Greer pick. But yeah, those 2 guys, without going too much, are the corners. I think they're in the mix.
Let me ask.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No. I see Lo-Fi in the comments, and he's brought up Genty a couple times, which, hey, again, it's a conversation worth having, right? Especially if you kind of fill in the blanks a little bit. But Greg, Greg and I on 2 separate shows. I think we debate each other a lot about Devon Achen and everything, but I think we kind of understand each other on where we stand. But because of, Greg, we talked, you've discussed multiple times where Devon Achen, not the number. You can clarify your comments on Achen. I don't want to speak for you, but is there, with Miami's running back situation, because Raheem Mostert is gone, Jeff Wilson is gone. Right now, Miami is looking to go into this season right now with with Jalen Wright and Devon Achen going into next season. We know Devon Achen as a weapon, receiver and a running back that, Swiss Army knife, perfect. Your thing is he's not your number one guy running back. You can't rely on him. And I don't want to, you tell me if I'm putting words in. I'm just trying to, my point is there anybody in free agency or in the draft, like a Genty or anybody that you would go, man, if they could get one guy that would make you feel better about the running back room? Is there one guy or two guys that Miami could sign that you'll feel better about the running back room?
Yes. The kid from Green Bay that just
AJ Dillon.
AJ Dillon.
Oh, okay. Dillon, yeah.
I would like to see Miami go after him to be the every down back, and then you move Achane to his role, to the Swiss Army knife role, the guy who can, you can bring in, you can line him up in the backfield, then motion him out to the slot or make him a wide receiver, make him the matchup headache. But again, and the stats prove this out, the more he gets the ball, the worse he gets. All right. He's not a 12 to 15 carry a game back. He's a 5 to 6 carry a game back. You need somebody else to fill that role. And especially between the tackles. All right. If Miami's opponents are going to continue to play them like they did last year, basically outside in and daring attacking our outside blockers by the tight ends and the wide receivers and things like that, not allowing the outside zone to take place. If you're going to do that and the middle opens up, we improve guard play. We need a running back that can run A gap, B gap. And Curtis talked about this last week on the show, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
that's not Devon Achen. So let's get a more powerful back, somebody like AJ Dillon. If you're not going to go spending a ton of money on it, but somebody like that, that would be where I would want to go with running back. Najee Harris would have been a nice player, but he just went to the Chargers.
Great fit in the Chargers.
What about
I would have loved him.
I want to ask, because now that Josh is in the comments, Josh Wingate, because he said AJ Dillon is softer than Charmin. So, and you guys can answer too. But somebody who's intrigued me, I want to make sure I pronounce his name right. He played for the Cowboys last year, younger back. Is my Rocco? Goodness, Rocco? Yes, is it Rico or Rocco?
Rocco
Dowdle?
Dowdle. Yeah.
Rico Dowdle. So Josh, if you could just because Josh, I'll say Cowboys fan, could give us his perspective. Because obviously they're not going to bring him back. But does anybody have an opinion on him possibly adding? Because he does have some thump to him. He's on the smaller, but he still has some thump to him.
I think the back with size is coming in the draft.
Okay.
Not maybe not the first 2 rounds, but like 3, 4, 5. I think that's where they're going to get the. I think if they're getting it back, it's going to be with size. An AJ Dillon would be nice, but there's not much else. They have the outside zone kind of speed backs already with Achane and Wright. I think we did the mock draft, Bobby. You were banging the table for Damian Martinez, like a Damian Martinez in the 5th round.
So
it's fine.
Well, hey, again, I see a lot. The guys are talking about Genty a lot, and I get it. And don't get me wrong, would not hate it. Okay, Genty, he should have been the Heisman last year. He's going to be, if he's there at 13, you got to consider him.
Bobby, you want a hot take? Bobby?
Okay, yeah. What's the hot take?
Omari Hampton's the best back in this.
Well, I was just going to tell you. I was just going to say. You stole my thunder. You didn't. It wasn't a hot take. You stole thunder. I was going to say, guys, I love Genty. I get it. I get Jamal Williams is still available. That's a guy that I think I highlighted his name for running back, a possibility, but. Hampton is not to be slept on, man. He got that speed. He's got that power. He had a great combine. And we did see the evidence showed that he really, that him and McDaniel and Greer both their eyes popped up when he did his run. Is that a possible early second round pick? Maybe. So
man,
if he's there in the second round,
what are you gonna say, Greg?
I was going to say, if they take another running back relatively high after trading up to get to right last year, and then the year before drafting Achane, it just goes to show you that they have really no idea how to do that position. In my opinion, if they take another second round running back, drafting 3 running backs, all right, and they lost a 3rd round pick this year because they traded up to get right. Man,
they got the 3rd round back because they got a compensatory pick.
Yeah.
And I will say, first off, if you're saying that he's not the true number 1 guy, and he's a Swiss Army knife in Devon Achane, and we're saying we don't know what we got in Jalen Wright. It's all about what we think he is. I'm not going to be pissed about them drafting a running back if they do think like you do that the guy's a Swiss Army knife. He's not a true number 1. And Wright, we don't know. We have a lot of people that I liked Wright coming out, but we had a lot of people going, oh man, he's the next big thing. Why is he not playing? Well, maybe there's a reason why he's not playing. And yeah, you draft to win. And in the comments, so I wouldn't be mad about it. Again, now that depends on what Miami did in free agency. If the majority of the players that they sign are filling holes, then that affords you a chance to go, okay, hey, are we really going to pass up on a Hampton or a Genty because we drafted 2 running backs 2 years in a row?
Here's the thing. If they draft a running back in the 2nd round, then that's a failure on Chris Greer's fault because he just went up and got Jalen Wright last year. So that's another failure on Chris Greer.
He has plenty of failures, and he'll fail, and he could he's hit on some too. Doesn't mean he's a great GM. He's not a good GM. He's not. My thing is I would never, for me, because I drafted a running back 2 years in a row or traded up for one because I thought maybe he might do something, or maybe my coach told me, hey, we really like him. If he didn't show up in camp and then there's a guy sitting there that we go, man, he really showed up and showed out, I'm not going to skip him because I'm worried somebody's going to think I suck. Everybody already thinks I suck, Chris Greer. We all think he sucks already.
Well, he does suck. But here's the thing too, Bob. Here's the thing, Bobby. If you get you get a running back in the 2nd round, now where does that leave Wright? The guy that you just went up in the draft to get.
Running back by committee. Who gives a crap? Let's see what he can do at camp. I'm not worried about making people feel good. I'm not worried about where guys fall in the lineup. If they're so damn good, they'll find their way onto the field. He didn't show enough last year. If he did, he would have had playing time.
I agree.
I don't know where he fits. And quite frankly, okay, you hit and you miss on players all the time. My thing is you get the best players you can on the field. If that is Hampton, like George says, best running back possibly in this class, maybe. If that is Hampton, you do it. I don't care what you did last year, the year before. It's failed. Your team has been a failure. I'm not worried about people's feelings. I'm not worried about players' feelings. You haven't done enough. You didn't do anything last year. So you go get the best player you can. That's why. And again, there's plenty of players in free agency that you can still get, not worry about drafting a running back at all. But again, we're talking about running back in free agency. That means we're not comfortable with the 2 guys we had. So if we're talking guys in free agency, because we're not comfortable with the 2 guys we had, we're not going to draft a guy now. So if we didn't sign a guy in free agency, we're not going to draft the guy in the draft because we took 2 years in a row. Absolutely not. I think that's malpractice.
Yeah. If jumping in the last thing on the running back, Steve, you want to go?
Go ahead, George. No, go ahead, George.
I think the running back thing is we're looking at a particular style of back. We got, we're not looking.
True.
That's the thing here. And I don't think you're going to take one in the 2nd round. But running back's a position every year you could take in the 4th or 5th round because these guys' life expectancy in the NFL is not much. But I will say this. If a Marion Hampton is there at 48, there's not a doubt he's the best player on the board because he probably won't make it past 28 or 25. That is a no-brainer. I've always said this. You get the best players in the building, figure it out later. That's what Philly does. That's what Baltimore does. That's what Kansas City does.
Yep.
That's what we don't do. We take Austin Jackson instead of Justin Jefferson. We take
Preach.
Monogamy get the best players. Yep. Philly comes out with they draft.
That's what the draft is. Yeah. That's what the draft should be about.
Free agency, people.
Yep.
Not 100%. Free agency. That's
why you're right.
I don't mind injury risk on free agency. I don't mind it. because
Yep.
it's a small
Right.
group, and you're paying. Listen, you're playing A+ money for not B. People say B players, no, C-, C+ players. So,
Yeah.
so if you're playing C+ money for B+ upside, but also a risk of injury, I'm fine with that. It's the draft where I have the problem with. But I got news for you. A lot of teams, the majority of teams, don't take best player available, including the Dolphins. It's that handful of ones who figured out the secret sauce. Baltimore, Philly. When you say, how did the hell did they let Cooper DeJean get to us at 40-something? Because those other teams are too worried about their job and too worried about what their roster is going to look like next year. They have to get the tight end 2 instead of cornerback 1 in their building. And there you go. You're at home. They're winning the Super Bowl. You want to know why the Dolphins haven't done it? It's that type of stuff. And even when you think they've done well, even when you think they've done well with Jalen Waddle, they did wrong. Like Jalen, they did wrong. Like when you are building through the draft, you will have to manipulate the board and take the best value at every spot you are. And that's something they haven't done. And you say Chris Greer sucks. I think that's the problem. He doesn't suck. He's not good. He doesn't suck. He's just average. That's the biggest problem. Now my rant's over. Sorry.
No,
No, you're good.
Greg.
I love it. I love it, man. I love it.
Good
Greg,
job.
what did you have to say, Greg? You look like you're about ready to say something.
So the problem with Greer, all right, and I brought this up on one of our shows in the past, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Miami hasn't had a rookie in the top 3 of Rookie of the Year voting since Troy Stratford. Okay.
Stratford.
All right.
Is that true?
Wow.
Yes. All right.
That's a
What was
long
Chop?
time
What was
ago.
Chop last year? He was like
Chop
what?
was 5th
Fifth.
in the voting.
Bobby's guy.
All right. Look, you know, the problem with Greer is he never goes big in the draft, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't draft impact. He drafts okay. All right.
And you got a team, Greg.
And you got a team full of okay. When you go up and down the roster in the position groups, who are the best players? They're not draft picks for the most part. All right. They're trades, they're free agent signings. All right. You can't win that way unless you're the Rams, and that's the one-off, right? And we're not supposed to be doing that. But you have to focus on the draft. You have to draft impact positions in the high rounds, and you have to get those players to play at a high level on cheap, all right, the rookie contract. Because once you pay them that second contract, then all kinds of other things have to take place to do that. And the problem with Miami is they don't draft the impact positions, so they got to overspend to get those impact positions, and that affects everything else that you do. And the reason why they're on the cheap the last couple of years in free agency and they're not moving the needle a whole lot is because they've already had to pay all of those players to do this.
Yep.
All right. And now we're in a position to say these players have to live up to this inflated contracts that we paid them, or we have to supplement all of that with the draft. And we don't draft. We drafted a player in the second round last year that hardly ever saw the field. He was the 4th tackle. All right. Who does that? Your second round draft picks have to be a contributor. And it took 2 guys to get hurt for him to play. All right. And now we're talking potentially him not playing this year and either. All right. You move up to draft a running back. All right. That doesn't see the field. Okay. Normally I would say, yes, keep trying until you get the position right. But you also got to say, all right, is the GM going to continually admit failure like that and keep his job? I don't think so. So I would love to get a running back early. I would love to get, to me, you draft an impact position. The 2 impact positions in most need for Miami right now, my opinion, is running back on offense and cornerback on defense.
Yeah.
And that's where I got to go. And if I go safety, I'm not going to be too upset at 13 either. But your first couple picks, your first 2 rounds, they got to be at impact positions, in my opinion.
Right.
All right. And they're probably going to settle on a guard at some point, and the guard might not be a starter day one. And if that's the case, oh my God.
I will say, in regards of Patrick Paul, I agree in regards of what you were saying, because, I understand going tackle in round 2 last year because you don't know what's going to happen to Armstead. You're kind of preparing for the future. He had 2 years left. However, I understand that idea, and I didn't dislike Patrick Paul. I thought he was more of a raw athlete. I liked the potential of it. George and I had a good conversation on the show and on the phone about Patrick Paul. It was the phone first and then the show, I think. But what they should have done, Greg, which I think falls right to what you're saying, that's why I'm a big guy on versatility. Guys who could play multiple positions. If you could get a guy, that you go ahead, Greg. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Versatility. A guy who can play multiple. That way, like you're saying, we drafted this guy in the second round. Why is he not on the field? Why is he the third guy behind Kendall Lamb and Taron Armstead? You could have plugged and played him at left guard or right guard and give him some experience, which he hasn't had. So, but go ahead.
Or plug somebody, move one of your tackles to guard so that he can play tackle. If
Jackson has experience at guard.
Jackson has experience at guard. Do something, because you were weak up the middle.
So,
all right. And they didn't make an adjustment the entire year. And you had a second round asset sitting on the bench waiting to play and not even seeing if he could play. He was your fourth tackle. All right.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Miami doesn't. Miami needs to be a Super Bowl contender, they need to get more talented very quickly. And you do that mostly through the draft. But they draft players who don't play. All right. Yeah. How do you move the needle if you draft a bunch of players that don't play? Jalen Wright didn't play a whole lot. All right. Paul didn't play a whole lot. All right.
Malik Washington just barely got in there.
Well, Malik Washington was because of River Craycraft and
OBJ. OBJ.
Well, not OBJ. The guy that just went to Houston.
Barrios.
Barrios.
All right,
yeah,
because they were hurt.
True. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
It's
so
the draft is a frustration
crazy
for me. And
it is. I think it's for all of us here. But let's move on. So speaking of the O-line real quick again, Bobby, you want to go back? I wanted to go back to that.
Yeah.
O-line. There. We got a versatile O-lineman in Larry Borum. Whoever he is. Now he comes out of Chicago, which had one of the worst lines in football, I think. But he can play guard and he can play tackle. So there's our swing tackle. He's gonna replace Kendall Lamb, whom I think Kendall Lamb had a better upside than Larry Borum did. But anyway, so that's who we got as far as our swing tackle replacing Kendall Lamb, in my opinion. You all agree, or you think differently, Bobby?
Kendall Lamb is older. He was not very good last year. I really liked him the year before. I thought he had a better year than before.
Yeah, he did.
Last year he wasn't very good. Larry Borum is who he is. Like you said, he's a backup. He's a depth piece. He's only 25 years old, former 5th round pick. He's played 47 games, had 27 starts at tackle and guard. Last year, I think he only played guard. But last season he played 8 games with 4 starts, so he has experience. Again, this is not as Greg is pointing out, this is not a needle mover. This is a depth piece, but it's a depth piece who has starting experience, and that matters, especially in this NFL. I saw somebody bring up the Vikings and their offensive linemen and whatever, and all their big free agency. They could do that. They could afford it. First off, they had the cap space, and secondly, their quarterback's on the cheap.
Yeah.
Ours is not. Miami, again, they're penny pinching. Now, it is what it is. These are the guys you're going to get. I'm not surprised. I'm not upset. It's what it is. The one thing again that I will give kudos to Larry Borum, or the signing, is just the starting experience, his age, and it's a depth piece. But Miami struggles with depth. They keep going with the last year I wish they would have signed someone like that, other than go ahead and keep Eichenberg and have Eichenberg start, or this year they signed James Daniels and Larry Borum. All right, now like Greg brought up, again, it's the trenches. I'm never against the trenches. Of course, there's gonna be better players, impact players at 13, second round. If you go O-line, if a guy's still sitting there, whether it's Zabel or Booker or whomever, that's not a bad way to go. Again, and then now you're like, okay, damn. If Armstead comes back, you got Armstead, you got Jackson back, you got Paul, you got Boehm, you got James Daniels, maybe you got a rookie guy in there. Now you're looking at an offensive line room that has some quality depth behind it, and a better offensive line on paper than what you had last year, because James Daniels, if he comes back healthy, he's been fairly healthy for his career. Last year he wasn't, he got injured, and is what it is. But fairly on paper right now, especially if Armstead come back, Miami's offensive line ain't looking so bad. When you get Jackson and Armstead back, it's about now adding that quality to that, because you got Brewer, you get Daniels, Armstead, or Paul and Jackson. But you still have the draft, like you said, George. If they go and get another offensive lineman, maybe guard Jenkins is still available, another guard from the Bears, young guy and with high upside, that could be huge for Miami. So I didn't jump up for joy when we signed him, but I was like, okay, hey, we're adding offensive line. We complain every season, Miami, do something with O-line. At least they did something, but this is no needle mover. Greg's right on the money with the regards of this class, especially with that guy right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we won't even go more into him. We know what he is. There was somebody mentioned something in the comments that Tua is 6'1". Tua is not 6'1". I'm 5'8". I stood right next to Tua. He's only about 3.5, 4 inches taller.
6'1" and 2-inch heels. That's what he wrote.
2-inch heels. Yeah, no. But the person before that, Linda, was saying.
Got you. Oh, got you. Okay,
he's not 6'1". He's about 5'11 and a half or 6 foot. So anyway, I wanted to go on the big signing that we made, quarterback Zach Wilson. Let's start with you, Greg. What do you think about that signing?
This is I have no issues with this signing whatsoever. All right. He is a former number 2 overall pick. He's got a lot of talent. He's got arm talent. He's got legs. He can run. He can move. If Mike McDaniel is a quarterback whisperer, then let's see what they can get out of him. For that price, there's nothing wrong with this signing. He's still young. He's athletic. Let's see what he can do. All right. Let's see if Sean Payton coached him up last year. We're going to have, Mike McDaniel this year. Let's see what he can do. There's no risk to this signing. All right. If you're forced to play a backup quarterback, any team in this league, you're probably not in a good spot anyway. So let's just see what he can do, because his athletic ability and his arm are intriguing. Let's see what happens if he gets some good coaching and he gets put into a system in which he can excel, and a system that basically makes quarterback reads very, very easy. It's a very easy quarterback-friendly system. Let's see what happens with him in this situation.
Absolutely, George. What's your
I kind of agree. Look, people who are kind of like, they love it, they hate it. All these quarterbacks on the free agent market were about the same. What, Mariota, all these guys. You get a guy who's 25, 26, former, like Greg said, former second overall pick. I know all these guys in the coaching tree, Shanahan loved this kid. He made some strides in Denver behind the scenes last year. Let's see what McDaniel could do with him. He's better than Mike White. He's better than Skylar Thompson. I like it. I think this you add him, and then you add maybe a 5th, 6th, 7th round quarterback, and if McDaniel truly is the guy that we think he is, develop him. Show me, and for the price, what else did you want? There was nothing out there. There was a bunch of the same kind of guys out there. So yeah, it's fine for me.
But and if you're gonna take a chance, if you're gonna pay somebody this kind of money, make it the 25-year-old number 2 overall pick, as opposed to the 30-some-odd-year-old guy who Marcus Mariota, who basically what you're getting. All right.
I agree.
Get somebody with some upside.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Bobby?
I 100% agree with you guys. Greg, I'm with you 1000%. I saw a lot of people, I saw some people didn't hate it. I saw a few did. They were kind of like, somebody asked me if I was on drugs because I said I didn't hate it. Zach Wilson, only 25 years old, a former first round pick, second overall. He played 4 years his whole career. Okay. 3 years was with the New York Jets. Are you kidding me? Do you see how bad the Jets are in everything? And I'm not picking on him. I'm not picking on Russ if he's watching. But do you see what Sam Darnold did? Outside that Jets organization. Not saying I'm not saying that that's what he's going to do, but I'm just saying, that's what people are going, oh, look, he sucked. I have somebody say here, somebody said in the comments, Sean Payton didn't resign him. Why would he? He had a backup already signed. This guy was becoming a free agent, and he has Bo Nix. Why would you re-sign him? Zach is a backup. And as a backup, like Greg says, why not go after a 25-year-old guy, a former first-round pick? He was drafted second overall for a reason. He has, again, a lot of upside. He's athletic. Be put on the film and watch him. His numbers don't scream anything. In his career, he has 6,293 yards, 23 touchdowns, 25 INTs. The one thing I will point out, first off, no matter who you signed as a backup, I can't see anybody being happy. There would have been somebody complaining about either, oh, you got Russell Wilson. Oh, but you paid him that too much money. Oh, you got this guy. Oh, you paid him too much money. Oh, you got this guy. Well, we got him for cheap, but he sucks, as they're doing with Zach Wilson. Would you have preferred a Daniel Jones? He went to Indianapolis. Daniel Jones got $14 million. Miami got Zach Wilson for $6 million. Low risk, high reward. Now, again, you're not signing him to be your starter. You're signing him as your backup. And again, this is a chance to show that, you could develop a guy in a span and hopefully build the offensive line good enough where you don't really have to rely on him. You don't have to, maybe Tua can protect himself, but there's going to come a time where Zach Wilson's going to come in. And yes, I would rather have a Zach Wilson back there than another Mike White or Skylar Thompson. Beggars can't be choosers, people.
No, I agree. And I'm just gonna piggyback on what all of you said. I agree with everybody. What you said. He's got an upside. He's got a hell of an arm. He's very mobile. He can run. And he's beaten Buffalo twice.
Is that a Tua? And guys,
no, I'm just saying he's beaten Buffalo Bills twice. That's all I'm saying.
Even the Tua haters, this guy's not better than Tua Tagovailoa. Okay,
because I've seen that. I'm not saying he's better than Tua. I'm just saying he beat the Bills. No, Tua's definitely got better accuracy than him, but he's got more tangibles than Tua does.
I don't know if I see any argument in the planet for him to go close
physically,
to Tua.
But he might surprise you. He might surprise you, and we're gonna. And I have a feeling we're gonna get that opportunity this year. So
that you're probably right on.
We'll see. No, he's definitely not a Tua better than Tua, but I just think he's got a stronger arm. No, I know. He's got a stronger arm. He's more mobile. So
there's upside. There's upside there.
There's some upside, but
I like it.
I'm not. Yeah,
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. I don't hate the signing. He's a backup. Look, he got beat out by what's his name, Stickman or something like that.
Yeah, Stidham.
Yeah, he got beat out by him with the Broncos. So, he's a backup. But anyway, let's move on. So, Bob, what do you got next? All right, there we go. Wow, that is
so. A lot of people complaining about Miami's penny pinching. Miami. First off, shout out again to Teron Armstead for taking a deep discount to give Miami a chance to make some moves, and it also gives him some flexibility to think if he wants to play another year or not. And you know what? That's awesome. If he comes back, great. If he doesn't, he doesn't last season. But again, you get him back, you get him at a cheaper option. And then Bradley Chubb restructured his deal, so Miami freed up enough money to make the moves they made. But people are still complaining, Steve. People are still saying, man, why didn't we go after this guy? Well, we don't have a lot of money. We only have like 29 or something, but Miami could get up to 60 million if some people restructure. One of those guys, you could free up to $19 million if Tua restructures his contract. So I have to ask the panel, and let me start with Greg, and then George, and then Steve. You go right ahead. But Greg,
Sure.
should Miami restructure Tua's deal to free up more money to hopefully move the needle?
No, absolutely not. All right. They need to have the out of that contract sooner rather than later. And if you free up the $19 million in cash, you will basically delay the inevitable, in my opinion. Now, the other thing that I find amusing, and it's been on Twitter here since free agency started and stuff like that, is all right. Miami, if they do certain things, could challenge for a wild card. All right. Yeah, no. All right. This is year 7 of the rebuild. You should be challenging for more than the wild card. And if freeing up money only makes you a challenger for the wild card, don't do it. All right. You need to look bigger picture than that. So that's what I'll say there. I would not restructure Tua. Not a chance in hell.
George, the fan club president.
Well, I'm trying to figure out when I get this ticket to Tua and I'm still trying to figure that out.
You have officially been baptized.
Yeah. I don't know if I want that. No, under no circumstance. And I think the players they would have freed up the money for, I mean, aren't they off the board mostly? I agree with everything Greg said. Don't touch this contract. They have to get the out. The injury history with Tua is too much hovering over this franchise, and I think that's the biggest thing when we talk about Tua. Steve and I, or anybody can argue about what his physical traits are. There's nothing to do with it. It's the injury concern and the durability, and you have to have an out on that. And I don't think they'll do it because you've kind of seen what they're kind of doing in free agency, going with they're only going to a certain level here. They're not going to go past that. I don't think there's a player out there now that they're going to go get. Maybe if it was a corner or another offensive lineman, but I wouldn't touch it. I would just. Your best players are already on this team. They got to take the next step. That's it. You can add depth, but and like Greg said, you got to hit a home run in this draft. I know we say it every year, but there's a lot in the line this season. It's got to be a home run draft.
Yeah, for sure. Home run draft. That they've got to. Yeah, as far as constructing his contract, hell to the no. That's the last thing we need is to get stuck with him for another 2 years. And with his injury history, I don't think Chris Greer or the organization, for that matter, is dumb enough to do that. I really don't. And I think if they were going to do that, I think they would have done it by now.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I'm with you guys. I would not. There's other guys you can restructure. Evan, put them in the comments that you could restructure, and you might feel better about having locked in for 2 years. Tua's got his money. He has his deal. You're gonna have him this year. But if it all falls apart again and he gets hurt, you need to have an out. And if you restructure him, you're not going to have an out. So, and Linda Johnston, appreciate you tuning in as always. Puts it right there. Only restructure if you're 1 or 2 players away from the Super Bowl. You don't restructure just to make the playoffs. It's not worth it. 100%.
100%.
There's nobody really available at this point to free up that money for. But still, I don't know if I would do it either if there was, because again, you're locking yourself into a guy who can't stay healthy. It's just the reality. He just can't stay healthy. And, so no, I'm with you guys. There's no way I would restructure him. There's other guys I don't mind restructuring. I didn't mind restructuring Bradley Chubb. He looked really good last year before he got hurt. And, I know a lot of people say that trade was a failure. I don't think it was. I think he still has some upside. I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to seeing him and Jalen Phillips and Chop Robinson and maybe someone else, because Miami's showing interest in edge rushers. Quentin Bell's coming back. They re-signed Bell. So I'm looking forward to seeing that edge rusher group going into next season. That guy was happy with the restructure. Tua, I would not touch. Let it be. Let it ride out and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure, guys. Guys, we had Bobby. Did you have anything else?
No, man. That is about it on my end over here.
All right. So we're going to we're going to cut the show off here in a few minutes. I appreciate everybody that joined the show tonight. In the chat, I see all of you in there making the comments. I appreciate it. I love it when you all making the comments. It keeps me going. It keeps the network going. It's good to see that you're getting involved and you like the content. When you're making comments like that, that means you're enjoying the content, and I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys joining. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, so you can get some more good information on the Miami Dolphins throughout this offseason and the beginning of next year too. We'll still be rolling, so make sure you hit that like button. Again, guys, I appreciate everybody on the panel that joined tonight. It was a great discussion, meeting of the minds, and we're going to have another one next week, same time, same bat channel. And again, thanks a lot, guys, for joining the show, and thank you all, and God bless. And remember, Dolphins #1, baby.